The exercise and physical activity really has been used as a punishment for a lot of people. And so, if we look at our departments, my goal, so I'm a professor at the University of Toronto, I've been working with the IFF for about 11 years now. My whole goal with all the work that I do, both with the fire service and the research and the teaching, is all about making exercise matter, specifically for the firefighters. That's really what I do. And if we look at what we're trying to accomplish with something like the Wellness and Fitness Initiative, for me, it's more firefighters, more active, more often. And so, with regards to an annual assessment, using some type of punishment, the people that we're really trying to get on board and get more active, who really need it, we're pushing them farther away. And so, we can have a conversation, at the end of all this about some of the annual assessments and, should we, shouldn't we, if we do, what should it look like? But I think we all have the same intentions. It's just sometimes maybe we're not packaging the exercise piece or the fitness piece in a way that's conducive to getting more people more active more often. And so I think it's a broader conversation that we all need to be having. Today, we are going to be really looking at exercise as this amazing tool that can help everybody out. And so, like I said, my goal with all the work that I do is really making exercise matter. And there's some awesome stuff out there that we can be doing for health and wellness, but there's probably nothing as important as being physically active. For mental health and physical health, for just the social relationships that we have. There's so many things, so many benefits that we can get from it. But I think that one of the big things that Grady mentioned, just the stigma associated with it, because we use the word exercise, and that alone comes with certain connotations. If we insert a different word or market it in a different way, whether it be physical activity or games or sports or yoga or dance, it's all physical activity. It's all good. And so we just have to figure out how do we sell it, how do we market it to the people that really need it. And yes, there are going to be people that just love exercising in a gym space. They maybe really enjoy CrossFit. We want to cater to those people as well. But that approach is not going to work for everybody. And so we really have to think about how can we get everybody involved with physical activity and exercise? How can we get everybody involved in some way that they're seeing the benefits that we all know exist? And I think that we all have the same intentions because exercise really is the best preventative medicine. But just selling it as exercise, you have to do this, go do your run, go do your push-ups, we're going to test your fitness annually, it doesn't work. And so today we're going to give you guys some thoughts about maybe how to approach this, and even from the IFF's perspective, I think historically we have had the same approach. It's when you guys are looking, I'm not sure if anybody's involved, doing kind of the WFI or has PFTs, but I think historically the IFF has had their approach to fitness was annual assessment, PFTs, very education focused. And it's not that that's good, but it's not comprehensive enough. We need to think bigger. And we need to think, what should this entire program look like to get more firefighters more active more often? And so, like I said, today we're going to share some of the thoughts that we have with you guys, and maybe give some ideas about how we are moving forwards at the IFF to provide departments with more resources, with a more comprehensive approach to this fitness piece, so we can have all firefighters get the benefits that we know exist. Before I move on here, I'm just going to have my two colleagues on the side just introduce themselves. Throughout the talk, I'll give a little background, and these guys are going to jump in with some very practical applications from their departments. So before we get going,
Karen Stewart from the Austin, Texas Fire Department. I've been with Austin for almost 20 years and been a PFT for most of that time since about 2004. Did a brief stint for about a year being in charge of our wellness center and risk management for Austin, and have been an instructor for the PFT program and seen a lot of different iterations of what people are doing with PFTs and their wellness programs across the country. And this piece is very exciting to me to think, like Dr. Frost said, about how to make this more comprehensive than just an annual assessment. And we have PFTs, but how do we provide outreach to the department that people are really going to pay attention to and want to be active with?
I'm Luke Peterson from the department in Waterloo, Canada, just outside Toronto. I'm our wellness fitness coordinator there. I've also taught at the University of Toronto with Dr. Frost. I come from a strength and conditioning background. I've been doing that for almost 20 years. What we're really talking about here is like Carrie and David said, is we've had successes and failures, and we're excited to share both sides of that with you here. And we'd love to hear your ideas too. We've learned a lot from these kind of conversations as well about what you've done in your department. So we're hoping that this is an informative session for all of you.
Awesome. So like I said, it really is, it's making this exercise piece more accessible, more inclusive. So we're really accommodating the diverse needs of the entire population. And I think before we get into it, it's important, to think about, why do we exercise, and what are we doing this for? And a big part of it is obviously the job. We need to be prepared for what you guys do every single day. Physically demanding job, unpredictable, chaotic, all those things. So you have to have a certain level of fitness to be able to do the job. But how we sell it is not necessarily just about the job. And when I first started working with firefighters back in, I guess, 2007 or 2008, I came from a strength and conditioning background, working with Olympic professional athletes, and I came in thinking, hey, I'm going to train everybody like I do my athletes, and they're going to love what I do, and they're going to get all excited. And I said, I couldn't have been more wrong. I was like, I'm going to make you guys better firefighters. We're going to train like these athletes are. And like, what the hell are you going to do to make me a better firefighter? I'm already awesome. Like, so coming as an outsider, I'm like, shit. Like, what can I tell you that's going to make you a better firefighter? Like, I can't tell you anything. And so it wasn't until we really started to think about, why do firefighters view maybe health as important or fitness as important? And a big part of it, I think, is what happens off the job. It isn't just about being a firefighter. Yes, we all share that, because that's the job you guys have. But if you're putting together some type of fitness, wellness, exercise initiative, you really have to think about what's the benefit off the job as well. Because a lot of firefighters, have second jobs, or they have hobbies, physical activities they like to perform. Family life is a big part of it, and so we really have to make sure that when we're selling this, when we're putting the initiatives together, that there's benefits seen on all those other things that are important. Because that's what's going to make it matter. For me, as somebody who, whether it's a strength coach hat or a firefighter, if I'm trying to put together some type of program for somebody, and I only make them better in an exercise environment, I've failed my job. My goal, like I said, is making exercise matter. To make it matter, you have to see impact in the things that are important to you. That's the goal. And so regardless of what is important to you, the fact that it is important to you. And so we just have to make sure we're considering that when putting something like this initiative together. And as we, our team's kind of been saying that I think what we've done in the past has been good. I think we all have great intentions, but I don't think we would all say, yes, we're 100% satisfied with the results that we've gotten. And so we're not happy with where we currently are, and it's the benefits that we're getting from exercise, it's the number of people that are actually involved, it's the comprehensive nature of the programs we're putting together. If we're not satisfied with that right now, let's not keep trying to do the same thing over and over. We need to think different about what this program actually looks like. And so I think that there really is a need for innovation right now. And we're looking at multiple disciplines to try and draw on some of the expertise that other people have to say, hey, what could this look like, or what should this look like? And I think that from my perspective, a big part of it is let's look at behavior change. Ultimately, if I'm trying to get someone to be more active, I'm trying to get them to eat differently, if I'm trying to get them to just change their daily behavior on the job, we have to look at this as a behavioral change issue. It's not a fitness issue. It's not an education or a knowledge issue. A lot of people know they should be more active, but they're not. And so the tactics and the strategies that we're using to get people more active, we have to look at how do people change behavior. What are some of the strategies that we're using? And so in order to support you guys in what you're doing in your departments, at the IFF, we're really looking broader than just saying, hey, go do an annual assessment, go take this class. It's how do we implement this in our departments? Because that's, I think, where people are falling apart. And we at the IFF have fallen short. You know, we have various resources, but it's here, go, you know, read our resources, watch our videos, and then good luck. And that just how we haven't been successful with that. And so we really want to provide more resources so you guys can be really successful in implementing this in your department. So understanding the motives of your population, understanding the barriers that exist at a personal level, at an administrative level. And only when we start tackling those things are we going to really see the benefits that I think we're looking for. And so this is how we're really trying to innovate in this space. To say, you know, how do we change firefighter behavior so we can get more people more active more often, and so everybody's getting the benefits of, you know, physical activity and exercise that we know exist. So this is kind of you know, how we want to approach this with you guys today. You know, it really is redefining the role of exercise as we've been talking about. And so one, it's just that term exercise, but also how we package it. You know, what are we actually trying to do with exercise? So it can be that medicine, that preventative medicine that we know exists. And you know, as I mentioned, let's reimagine what the rollout of something like this looks like. And so I'm not sure if anybody has in their departments more than the annual physical. Maybe you have PFTs, maybe there is some type of exercise, you know, ongoing. But how do we actually get more, or you know, say 90% of the population engaged? And what does that look like on a daily basis? How do we make this sustainable long term? Because the other thing we don't want is to get everybody excited. You know, we've got this 2-month initiative, and then it, you know, dwindles off. If there's a change in leadership within your department, we don't want the program to go away. And so how do we embed something that is going to be sustainable regardless of what's happening at the top? And then the last thing, like we've been saying, part of this really is, you know, kind of reinventing the support and the resources that the IFF has for you guys. You know, we want to kind of reinvent this fitness program or this fitness initiative is at the IFF. Because it isn't just PFTs. Like, I think, you know, we're still called the PFT program, but it's so much more than that. And you know, there's a lot of departments that are like, you know what, I don't really want to adopt a PFT model. And so, like, okay, it may not be right for you right now, given, you know, maybe some of the administrative constraints that you have. We don't want that to be a barrier for your involvement in what we're doing. And so we want this to be a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more accessible to a lot of people. And so I think this is where, you know, we're really trying to think about how can we get creative, how can we be innovative, and rebrand, you know, what this fitness initiative is coming from the IFF to support what you guys are doing. So that's kind of the roadmap that we'll take you down today. So before I start, I'm just going to present, you know, you guys might be familiar with some of these stats, but you know, some of them I find pretty staggering. But just to maybe highlight the scope of, not the problem, but maybe what the fire service will do. So first one here is 20% of firefighters will experience a major depressive disorder within a year. And I think, you know, mental health is definitely a priority right now. But when you see something like this is 1 year. 1 in 5 firefighters will have a major depressive disorder within a year. 20% of firefighters experience PTSD annually, and 65% are haunted by memories of bad calls. Firefighters 6 times more likely to experience PTSD than the general population. Again, pretty staggering, but again, you guys are probably very familiar with these type of stats. Firefighters increased risk of cancer. So I've listed 10 different cancers here. You can kind of see the elevated risk along the bottom. But just by being a firefighter, being exposed to some of the things you guys are, cancer is an issue. Firefighters increase risk of arthritis. So because of the job and the physical tasks you guys are doing, 2 to 3 times more likely to experience knee and hip opening. 34% of firefighters obese, 80% overweight. I think the obesity's gotten closer up to 40 now. And you know, obesity comes with a whole bunch of other health complications. But 80% are overweight. 37% of firefighters have a sleep disorder. I think that's getting closer to 40 as well. And then obviously sleep disorders associated with a lot of bad stuff too. So here, increased risk of heart disease, 237%, diabetes, 191%, depression, 310%. Bad stuff. And then this is the reality, like the job is the job. Like there's a lot of the stuff you guys can't get away from. And so we have to look at, what are some of the things that we can be doing to either prevent some of this stuff or to tackle it and help manage or treat it. 1 in 12 firefighters diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in the next 9 years. So even thinking of it in this room, say we have 60 people, we're going to have five people in here have type 2 diabetes within 9 years. And then diabetes obviously comes with a whole bunch of complications too. It's not something we want to be pursuing. 82% of duty-related cardiac deaths caused by coronary heart disease and a large heart. Now, there is good news. It was depressing, but I think it's really important to highlight what the problem is that we're dealing with. If we're trying to get more people more active more often, we have to think, what is the reality? But then, also, we have to say, what are some of the things that we can be doing? And the talk here, exercise is medicine. Every one of those things I mentioned, there's solid evidence to support exercise as a treatment or management or prevention tool to address it all. That's the exciting part, because we don't have to experience all these things. And so if exercise, so I'm going to show you guys some evidence on the other side, how exercise can actually help. And then the question becomes, well, how do we get more people active? If exercise can be this amazing thing, if we can avoid all that stuff that I just said. So we're not going to experience the diabetes. We're not going to experience the same mental health problems. If we can get more people active, then the question becomes, well, how do we get more people active? But exercise can be this amazing thing. So large antidepressant effect. So 43% fewer mental health days, 22% lower mental health burden by exercising. Strenuous exercise reduces PTSD symptoms. So high intensity exercise greatest potential to affect symptoms of avoidance, numbing, and hyperarousal. Exercise will help to prevent and treat cancer. There's now tons of work being done on the links between exercise and physical activity and cancer. So this first study I'm showing, 13 cancers here, some of which firefighters have at increased risk of. Your risk will be lowered just by being physically active. And then the second point, so your quality of life, if you do have cancer, being active is going to help you deal with that, help you manage some of the complications with it. Exercise can help manage arthritis, just for a variety of reasons. Huge impact on weight loss. We're thinking about obesity and all the complications that come with that. Being physically active is obviously going to help, to manage or avoid some of those things. There's a reciprocal relationship between exercise and sleep. So, sleep obviously comes with poor sleep comes with some bad stuff. But if we're active, if we exercise, we're going to sleep better. And if we sleep better, we're more likely to be active. But there is a relationship with sleep. Exercise is absolutely critical to anybody with diabetes, both to help manage it and maybe try and alleviate it. Exercise lowers the risk of heart disease and death, so 26% reduction in cardiovascular mortality. So you exercise, you're going to live longer. And so it really is one of the best preventative medicines. But again, I think that if I asked everybody in here, is exercise good for you? We would probably all say yes. Okay, but I think that the point here was just to highlight all this stuff, or a lot of this stuff that you guys are dealing with every single day, the health complications that the fire service is facing. Many of them can be addressed on a preventative side by being physically active. And so then, how do we get more people active? How do we get more people interested, engaged with this whole exercise and physical activity piece? But I don't want it all to be negative, because it's not just about the avoidance of bad things, it's also about the accumulation of good things. So exercise can provide a lot of positive benefits as well. And so whether this is just the kind of family or connectedness, it's your quality of life, it's your confidence, it's your energy, it's your appearance, it's allowing you to kind of pursue various adventures, libido, lots of positive stuff. Okay, so exercise can help you avoid some of the bad stuff, and it can give you all access to all these other really positive things. So we just need to get more people engaged in this whole activity thing. So it starts with really redefining what exercise is and how we view that term. So So what, I guess, anybody in here, you can shout out, what does exercise look like to you guys? And when you think of the word exercise, what is that like? Where is it done? How long does it take? Is it hard? Any thoughts?
It's hard.
It's hard.
But it needs to be done.
Okay, I think it's a great answer.
It's hateful.
Hateful.
You can't stand it. You have to do it anyway. Look
Amazing.
at the end of the day going, I do not want to do this shit as you're putting your shoes on and going outside.
Hey.
Cursing the weather because you need to run, but you don't want to run. Getting up at the 5 o'clock in the morning, to run a 5K, freaking 40-degree weather.
This is absolutely amazing. So I completely agree with what you said. Okay, there is a negative association with exercise. I do it because I have to, or I think I need to. But it looks like this. It's, I have to go run, I have to be outside, I have to work hard, I have to do it this long. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. And if there is this association with exercise, how long, is that really sustainable? Is this something that's gonna, be around forever? So this individual gets the benefits of exercise? Not a chance. Because we're looking for an excuse not to do it. So it's if whether it starts to rain, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have an hour in my schedule right now. No, I'm just going to do it. I'm coming down to Alt, I'm traveling to a conference. I don't have access to my facilities. I'm just going to take a little break, be on holiday. Don't need to do it. We've got to get beyond that. And so we really have to package it in a way that is more appealing to people. And it doesn't have to be the same thing for everybody. And we just have to figure out what could be of interest to you right now. What is accessible to you right now? What fits into your lifestyle right now? So we can't push the same thing on everybody. It doesn't have to be in a gym. Even for me, I've kind of changed some things in my life, and I don't have access and time to go to a fitness facility anymore. So my exercise consists of, oftentimes working out of my kitchen, or if I'm not in my hotel room. But it's fitting something in. And so it's, what might work for you. I did this is some work I did with the Toronto Fire Department a few years ago. And I went in, and it was 12 consecutive Saturdays. And firefighters were being pulled offline, and they were sending 4 trucks down to come, 8 trucks to come down and see me at their training academy. And I was going to be doing a 2-hour little workshop on exercise and health and wellness and things like that. But before we started, and before I introduced myself, I wanted to give them to give me a raw impression of what they thought exercise looked like, or what they perceived health to be like. Because I wanted that to be the answer. I wanted to give it to me, just give it to me straight. I don't want you to tell me what you think I'm looking to do. I want you guys to tell me exactly what is important to you. And after they finished swearing and asking me if their union president know that they were coming down here on a Saturday. We got past all that. We asked them a couple of questions about the importance of health and wellness, or where they wanted to see the impact. And this is just some responses from these guys. So here I'm showing that 53%, I think we have about 450 people coming through, 53% of this group said preventing injuries is the most important thing for me. Above maybe preventing disease, above improving performance. And so we need to listen to what people are saying. So we're trying to sell the importance of exercise. We're trying to redefine what this really looks like. And with this population, half we're saying is the avoidance of it. And so we're trying to make exercise matter. That's where it has to matter. They have to see the benefit in not getting hurt. And one of the other questions was, is this life? Is this firefighting? Is this some of the maybe sport or exercise-related things you do? Half the population said, I need to see an impact on my life at home. It's okay, heard. So again, we're putting together this initiative. We're trying to brand exercise as this valuable tool that everybody should be using. We need to listen. Half are saying preventing injuries, and half are saying impact on my life. That's where we need to really cater this to. But it's also important to realize that it was only half. So there's also another half that is not saying those things. So if we try and put together an initiative, we have a one-size-fits-all approach, it's not going to work. In this case, we're going to lose half the population if we try and cater to these 2 things that came out as done. And so we need a diverse solution here that is applicable to the entire membership. And so, but I guess the first thing is we need to do a bit of a needs analysis to say what is important. Because at the end of the day, if we're trying to get people invested or involved in our program, we need to figure out what is important to them. Like, what do they want to see in some type of program? And we can't force things on people. Trying to force people to change does not work, particularly in the long term. Like, you might see a switch immediately when you try and use scare tactics or coercion just to get people off the couch in the beginning, but it's not going to work in the long term. Or we create the negative association. It's like, I'm dreading this, I don't want to do it, I know I have to because there are consequences associated, but that's not what we want to try and build with regards to a program and the associations with exercise and physical activity. It's not sustainable. So we really need to think about how do we get them to buy in. And so from my experience, that is almost step number one if we're trying to launch something. Let's think about how do we get people to buy in, to invest, to engage with the initiatives we're putting together. I'm just going to lean on these guys over here and give you guys some practical examples of what this has looked like successfully or maybe unsuccessfully or unsuccessfully within the departments. Carrie, you want to start?
So in Austin, we were very fortunate that we were one of the 10 cities, and we've had a wellness program since the late 90s when the WFI was created. And at the beginning, it was not necessarily received well. Everyone just knew that it was going to be a way for them to pull people off of trucks, and it was going to be a punishment thing. And after we started capturing cancers earlier and cardiac disease earlier and getting people back to work, we had kind of some inherent buy-in at that point early in our program, just because people were discovering that it wasn't we weren't using it as a tool for punishment or to identify problems. That we wanted to identify those problems, but it was with the purpose of getting people back to work and keeping people healthier. Over the years, we've continued that, but our buy-in is more out of habit now than because we have caught those things. And if we think about that program holistically, I think people are doing it just because it's what we've always done at this point. And so I feel like we're in a bit of a rut at this point for what are we really getting out of that and why are people bought in. So I feel like we could revamp that some to where we are paying attention to what people want to get out of it. And we've kind of gone down that road to ask our PFTs, like, what do you want to be doing within the department? And so we've gotten a lot of good feedback for different programs that we can implement and different classes we can do, but what we haven't done is asked the membership as a whole, what do you want to be getting out of our wellness center and out of our wellness program? So that's somewhere that we need to go in Austin with our development is to ask everyone, what do you want to get out of this? So that we can find out, is it stuff in life, is it injury prevention? Because we pulled some workers' comp stats and 30% of our injuries come from working out. So when exercise should be that thing that's making us better, that activity that's making us better in life and on the job, that's what's hurting us the most in Austin when we're working out. Our injuries are coming from exercise. So we want the exercise to matter and be important to our folks, but we need to know what else they want to get out of it too and what their motivations for it are.
I think it's, Carrie's last comment here about firefighters getting hurt while exercising. This is a trend that we're starting to see. So in the past 5 years or so, the research that's coming out looking at where firefighters are injured, it has been about a third during exercise-related activities. And so this has big implications both at the member level and the administrative level. So if somebody is saying that I want to exercise to avoid getting hurt, and then I'm getting hurt in the process, it's like, screw this. Like, I don't want to be doing any of this because I'm just putting myself at risk. And then from the administrative level, we've had chiefs say, hey, no more exercise.
That's my job. They pulled it right now.
Right. Yep. And so it's like, holy cow, like, we can't go down that path as well. Like, I've just shown you guys the amazing benefits that we can get by being physically active. So rather than saying, hey, no more exercise, we have to say, why are people getting hurt in the first place when they're exercising? Like, what are we doing? How can we look at this differently? Because not exercising is not the problem, because there are a whole bunch of other issues and complications and money that will be spent on the population if you don't allow time to exercise. Yeah.
You see the CrossFit type exercise become a problem because people that never exercise in their life, now they go from zero to a CrossFit routine and then boom, their knee and shoulder.
So I think So it's a great question. So what I would say is I don't want to throw something like CrossFit under the bus, because I think at the very basic level, CrossFit is amazing. You know, if we look at the 4 pillars of CrossFit, you know, we have whole body activities, great. We have high intensity, also potentially great, but it's relative. It's relative to wherever you are. We have variation or variety. If we look at learning, if we look at you know, how we actually improve physical literacy, you know, we get the benefits from activity. Variation is awesome. And the last piece is just looking at the group and the community. And if we're looking at, you know, how do we get more people more active more often, having a community environment is one of the best things that we can do. So those are at the heart of it, the 4, you know, very evidence-based pillars of CrossFit. Now, where we fall short, and it's true of any type of exercise, is maybe jumping into things and trying to do things that we're not ready for, or we don't have experience with, or that we shouldn't be doing at the moment. And so I think it's just being a little bit smarter about how we choose activities and what we do for exercise, and not saying it's CrossFit or P90X or yoga or, you know, anything. We could be doing anything. We just have to be a little bit more cognizant about, you know, what we could be doing and how we should be doing. Luke, do you want to jump in on the buy-in piece?
Yeah, so my department's probably the opposite spectrum of Boston. So we don't have a wellness budget. We don't have a wellness center. So we had to get really creative on how to do this. So things that we did for member buy-in was first we asked what everybody wanted. So we sent a survey out and gathered feedback on what people wanted from a wellness program. Because whether they exercise or not, even the inactive firefighters wanted to be healthy, all right? So that was really important, to understand what they wanted. So that was the first thing. So the second thing that for me was to help break down barriers, right? So making sure that they have access during the shift, if that's what they want. Or we also do like the frequency of engagement. So almost every day, I make sure that something is going out to our membership to engage them in some sort of wellness information or education or an article, but it's in their face every day. So it's just a part of the conversation now. Do they read it? Maybe, maybe not, but it's there. It's in their department email. They have to see it, so it's in their head, right? So that was something that really worked well for us. Is our team was to constantly be engaging our firefighters, right? And that's what basically social media is all about, right? It's that instantaneous, constant engagement. That worked really well for us.
So I think that there are, yeah.
So, does it work with the guy that's adamant, I'm not doing this? Play video games all day.
Okay, so that's
Not
a
even
big,
that, I don't want to, it's not me, that guy got hurt, I'm not doing it, I don't want to do it.
so I think it really comes down to what we're trying to achieve in a wellness program, all right? Let's be honest, probably there's going to be a small percentage that are never going to go into a gym, ever, no matter what you do. So for me, I had to really readjust my expectations and say, okay, that's okay, but there is something that I can do to improve your life on some form. So a silly example for me was we put up urine charts above the urinals and toilets about hydration, right? So whether you exercise or not, that individual can say, instantaneously find out if they were hydrated or not, because we know dehydration and the impacts on the cardiovascular system on dehydration. So them just starting to drink more water, that was non-invasive for that individual, right? But it made a big impact with something so small. I was getting texts like, hey, it was a scale, and I'm sure everyone's seen the hydration scale. I'm a number 7 today. And it's like, that's awesome. You know, like, from individuals that have never been to a gym and never will. But this, just sort of that one thing that they could do that would make a big impact on their health, like something from hydration, which we don't think of as exercise, but it made a big impact in their life, right? So stuff like that, we put stuff up on the kitchen cupboards, we put stuff up on the doors, above the urinals, like, it's always in their face, something for everybody, right? I think that's really the key here is we have to really think about what are we actually trying to do? Are we trying to turn everybody into Olympians? Or are we trying to make people healthier? Because if we're trying to make people healthier, it doesn't have to be in a gym. There's things that we can do with just hydration, for example, that will make a big impact on someone's life.
I think it's a really good point. And telling people they need to exercise or as a first step, trying to get your department more active, doesn't have to start with exercise. And so, as another example, it really, if we think about, somebody has a negative association with exercise, before we try and, give them an alternative, we might need to break that down and have a bit of a softer approach to getting them engaged into what it is that we're doing. And so some of the stuff that the IFF, has done in the past is, we've gone into various departments and delivered what we call a small steps for big change workshop. And this is really highlighting the importance of just how we move. So it has nothing to do with exercise, but it has everything to do with exercise. It's got everything to do with the job. It's got everything to do with activities of daily living. And so we're highlighting what we call our 7 key features and how they're applicable to your life. So just by being aware of what these 7 key features are can make a massive difference in a firefighter's life today. And it's got nothing to do with putting on your shorts and going to the gym or strenuous activity. It's just being aware that how you move can make a dramatic impact on your quality of life. And we have a number of stories now. Some of you may have heard it in the past, but I tell a story. I was doing a workshop with Luke's apartment back in, I think, 2010. And it was just like a little 2-hour thing, kind of like this. We had a 45-minute, maybe just information session on small steps for big change, nothing to do with exercise again. And then we were having to do a little practical activity just to reinforce some of these key features that we were mentioning. And one of them was, if you're walking upstairs, if you're running, if you're doing chores around the house, keep your hip, your knee, and your foot in nice straight lines. Like that's the one piece of advice I could give you to avoid any type of knee issues. And so then we had the guys practicing getting in and out of the truck or walking up and down stairs. And 20-year captain comes up to me after this little workshop and he's like, oh my God, I've had knee pain for like 20 years. And today was the first time I didn't have any pain. Like, wow. 2 months later, the guy's come back to me, he's like, I haven't had pain since that day. Like, you changed my life. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, at that time, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how big of an impact we can actually have. But this has nothing to do with exercise. But if this individual, every single time they're active, it's like, oh, my knees, I can't do this, I'm getting older, the job's taking its toll on me. That's the association they have with being physically active. No wonder they don't want to do it. It's just horrible. But right away, we've now created a positive association. It's like, I can actually move around, and I'm not in pain anymore. And this had nothing to do with putting on my shorts and working really hard. It's like, I can get invested in this. And we have countless stories of testimonials now, how people have kind of flipped the switch and they've created a positive association between just moving. And that's where we need to go. So as a first step, it doesn't have to be, here's an exercise program to go do. It can be, let's just think the urine chart. Let's think differently about how we move. Give people some information that just by being aware can have a dramatic impact on their life. So, a lot of different things. One other thing I think it's important to mention, understanding members' needs is very important. I think that is where we do need to start. But we also have to understand that management has its own objectives. And so when we're trying to sell the idea of a wellness and fitness initiative, we have to make sure that we're accommodating their needs too. So ultimately, if they're the ones that are paying for it, they need to see that I'm checking off all the boxes that I need to check. And so in this case here, I'm just showing you guys costs. And so this is some work that we did with the Calgary Fire Department a number of years ago. But it was looking at where is the money spent on injuries. And as I mentioned, it was largely exercise related, but we even break it down farther to say, hey, what types of injuries are being sustained? And it was knees, backs, and shoulders. And I would assume that it's probably similar in your departments. But this is where the injuries or the money is being spent. We also need to understand, are these cumulative injuries? Is it acute injuries? Can they actually be prevented? And I think that, from the work that I've done, a large part or large percentage of the injuries that firefighters are sustaining are preventable, which is, that's great. But we have to understand what are the mechanisms of injuries. Can we actually reduce these costs? And so, from my perspective, the answer is 100% yes. So a lot of the injuries that are being sustained that are incredibly costly here, to the knees, the backs, and the shoulders, can be prevented through some very simple means. So if we're trying to make the business case for the administration, I think we can address the needs that they have while accommodating the needs of all the members. But just to make sure that this is part of the puzzle will be very important. You guys have any comments just on the administrative side, how you got buy-in, or maybe how it's been a challenge to get buy-in?
Just from the top
Yeah.
down. So we've had PFTs for a long time in Austin, and we've generally made them active or had them be active on an at-a-time basis. And so that's not real sustainable, because if the budget is saying that we've got to cut back, then that at-a-time goes away, and then we lose our PFT involvement out into operations. So trying to be creative, and part of it is going to have to be that we ask the membership what they want, and how do we minimize the at-a-time to still have our PFTs, which is kind of our framework, out into operations, to have that still active, but also finding other ways that we can address what the membership wants that's not going to cost us anything. So we've set our process up on being able to maintain a certain degree of at-a-time to make it work. And we're very fortunate that we also have 4 staff exercise physiologists, and that doesn't cost us at a time to have them be more active with our operations. But over the years, we've focused so much on our clinic that we consider that our outreach and our connection to operations. So even to see every firefighter once a year, we consider that our outreach. And if we're talking comprehensively, like, that's not a comprehensive program either, to just see someone once a year to count push-ups and see how long they can hold a plank. So again, kind of a rut that we're in, to be able to step past that, find out what people want, maximize that time that we have with folks in our clinic, and be able to minimize those costs and have something that goes beyond the out-of-time framework that we've established.
So for us, we don't have an injury problem. So I looked at our injury data. We didn't really have a problem. But what we do have is, for a department our size, we have a lot of people currently off on PTSD. So there's a behavioral problem for us, for our department. So I think you're going to see a common theme here in our discussion is we're really trying to repackage what this whole wellness, exercise, fitness thing really is. So when I bring it to management to try again, when I was trying to get PFTs and et cetera, was using that message of exercise or physical activity and the benefits towards mental health, like Dr. Frost said earlier, right? So really repackaging that, because to our department, injuries wasn't the issue, right? So if I went in there and said, I'll cut down your injuries, and they said, well, we don't have any injuries. See you later, right? So but we do have a lot of people off on PTSD right now for the size of our department. And so we're using it to maybe build team build and build cohesion and a network and connection amongst our department, using physical activity as our message. So that's how we sort of had to.
What would the percentage be in your department of the PTSD?
I think we're at like 15%, which is, I think, don't quote me, I'm not sure what the sort of average is, but it seems it's high for us.
So this isn't specific to the fire service, but I think it's some pretty alarming stats from my perspective. So this is in the U.S. So $1.1 trillion on chronic disease, $250 billion on work-related injuries, $300 billion on work-related stress, and $550 billion on disengagement at work. So this equates to 12% of the GDP of the U.S. So if you scale this down to your department, this is very costly. So all the stuff that we talked about in the beginning, this is very costly and burdensome on your department. Exercise can help with all of this stuff. And so again, it's trying to think, how do we get more people more active, more often? What are the steps that it's going to take us to get there? What does implementation and the rollout actually look like? So we start seeing the benefits that we know exist at the member level and for the administration. So this comes down to, let's reimagine how we actually roll this out. So we've got 5 C's for you guys. So if you're trying to create some type of initiative, make sure you're at least giving some thought to each of these different things. So the first one is just the culture. And so the initiatives that you're putting together should emphasize positive attitudes, practices, and behaviors. So again, if we go back to the beginning, some of the stuff that Brady was mentioning about mandating fitness assessments or mandating physical testing in the beginning, what is that doing to your culture? Like, if you try and force something on people, in my experience, it's really to kind of get rid of the bottom group that is not maybe pulling their weight. That's not creating the positive culture that you're looking for. That could be actually creating more of a divide. And so we all have the same intentions. We're all trying to get people prepared for the job. But at the end of the day, this strategy is actually having the opposite effect. Second one is commitment. And my experience here, we like instant gratification. I want a return on my investment immediately. We have to realize that behavior change takes time. And so if I'm showing a commitment to this, it has to be a commitment in the long term. It can't just be in the next 6 months. I'm seeing this progress. If I don't see something in the next 6 months, then we're going to throw up our hands and start again because it didn't work. No, it can't be like that. You have to commit to something long term and see it through. Collaboration. And so I think that there are a lot of opportunities to seek relationships from other departments, other organizations within your community. You don't have to do this alone. This is where the IMF can come in as well. Like, there are a lot of groups doing some amazing things, and I think that if we pool our resources and some of the things that we're learning, we can accomplish way more together than we can on our own. Okay, let's not try and recreate the same thing over and over again. Let's build on where we've come from. And I think that's going to help push the whole service forward. We've talked about this a lot, just being comprehensive. And so this is inclusive, it's accessible, it's accommodating the diversity that does exist in the department, both from the needs perspective, on maybe the psychological, emotional needs, but it's also the physical needs, the physical interests. So we really have to do more than just giving people workouts or doing annual tests. And the last part, communication, is absolutely critical. But member-driven, how do we get people, when they're seeing this, it's like, I see myself in it. I understand that this is not for that type of person. It's not just for the CrossFitters. It's not for the people that are fit right now. This is actually for me. And in the marketing that we do and trying to sell the program, people have to see themselves in it. And if they don't, then they're not going to get invested. And so our communication strategy has to be very comprehensive as well. Okay, the one-size approach, it doesn't fit everybody. So then, just some, I don't know if you guys have some thoughts about what you tried on the implementation side that's either worked or not worked.
Well, knowing that we are kind of in a rut with our program overall, we did in the fall of 2018 what we called a movement class. So the key features that Dr. Frost talked about earlier, they're within the IFF fitness program. We introduced those to our departments with the understanding that we wanted those to be important to you, not just for work or for minimizing injuries, but also for what's important to you in your life, that it could be your work, your life, your play, that we want that exercise piece to matter. But also, as far as implementing a different plan, that we wanted people to be more active, but the message there was it could be 1 minute a day, it could be 3 minutes a day, that we wanted to kind of broaden people's perspectives on what exercise or physical activity could look like. So that was a step for us to start kind of branching out, that it doesn't have to look a certain way for it to be exercise or physical activity, that if you're not doing anything, like if you have a guy that just doesn't want to do anything, maybe we can just go for a walk around the station and have a chat. Like that's getting something going that maybe we weren't doing before. And that's been a step for us to start kind of going down a different road to implement something a little bit different that we haven't done before, is doing that class with every station and every crew in our department. So talk about it as from a safety perspective, but also from a performance, from a quality of life perspective also.
Great.
Can I talk about the 5 minutes of fun?
Sure.
So, anytime Dave visits headquarters now in the past 8 months since I've been on the job there, it's always fun when he comes in on his field trips, because Dave does this thing called 5 minutes of fun with the office, and you don't have any of that on here.
I do.
Okay, yeah. So one day, we're in our suits or our polos or whatever, and we're doing exercises, pulling up underneath the table, and one where we've got, it almost looked like a whack-a-mole game, where we were all in our cubicles and we were pressing our trash cans up above our head for 10 times a piece, and then we were just doing simple body weight squats as an alternate exercise, but just 5 minutes, and we were in our, there was no excuse of I don't have time to go to the gym, I didn't bring my gym clothes today. It was just 5 minutes, and we all laughed about it and felt good, and he's videoed it, so it's probably somewhere on
Instagram, YouTube. I can show you guys afterwards. Check it out. But it really is, wherever you are with what you have, do something. Like, I think that's the message, and it can be as little as 3 minutes, 5 minutes a day. And at headquarters, we had their entire staff in health and safety, in their cubicles, all kind of getting engaged in the same thing. So all of what we're doing is lifting up the trash can, doing a squat, so everybody can peek over and see what everybody else is doing. And it was amazing. Everybody had tons of fun. And so we're creating this positive association with just moving. And that's, I think, a lot of people, from what I heard just from that little 5-minute experience, that created this buzz. So for the rest of the day, they're feeling really good, not only about themselves, but the culture, the environment that they're in. And that's where it can start with something really simple like that. And like I said, as Grady mentioned, every time we get together, I think in the beginning maybe he was dreading seeing me because he knew something was coming. But now it's non-threatening. Like, it doesn't have to be putting on his shorts. It doesn't have to be working hard. The whole purpose of this is to really enjoy what we're doing. And it's not just for me, it's the enjoyment that we get by kind of building something together. So, yeah. So, Bill?
Yeah, no, I just don't want to talk. Again, I'm a product of 26 years of bad eating, living in a firehouse every 4th day, not sleeping right, not de-stressing properly. And again, I started at the IFF last April. One of my areas of responsibility is to kind of work with Dave and our PFT program. And so at our instructor conference this past November, I had the opportunity to meet all of the Pure Fitness Trainer group. And I had occasion to step into the classroom, and they were working on these survey tools that are basically individually tailored survey tools for each person, because there is no one package that fits every one approach. So they were developing these case studies, and I answered it as honestly as I could, and gave them some information. But they had built some exercise, some quick exercise programs for the previous case studies that they'd already worked on that week. So on the last day that we were there, they asked if I wanted to come out on the beach with them. We were in Clearwater, Florida, and work out with them. And I was like, yeah, they're mine. I gotta support them. So I changed out of my suit, got on my shorts and t-shirt, went out on the beach with them, and we had a blast. We did just really simple, run down to the water and get your feet wet and come back, and we'll do some lunges and a couple other types of exercises. But we were kind of competing with each other, counting for how many times we could do the sets of exercises. And I think I only did like 22 sets of this. I think Dave did like 300 or something like that. But but my point being is I am not a gym rat. I never have been. The gym always kind of scared me. I never really knew how most of the equipment worked. I just kind of wandered around, and I ultimately ended up at the smoothie bar. And I've injured myself. Like my shoulders both snapped back on top because I worked out, bless you, I worked out with folks that were physically stronger than me at work or in school. And, they've got a couple plates up there. I can do that too. They're the same size as me, or they're smaller than me. So I've injured myself because of that. And so I don't do that anymore. And what we're doing here is we're changing. It's not just Pure Fitness. It is we're going to build these programs individually for you, and we're going to help you as one person to be better so that you can reduce your rates of cancer. We've attributed obesity to cancer. We're changing your just little things in your diet. Not going on a diet program, not going on keto or one of those things, but changing the way you do everything totally. The behavioral health things that we're tackling now in the fire service. it's not just this silo is physical fitness, and this silo is how you eat, and this silo is mental wellness. It's everything together, and we're working together with our experts to deliver a better product for all of our members. So,
And it's got to be funny. Like, we have to bring fun back. And so part of the activity that we're doing, that Grady mentioned is, let's look at these cases and say, what is actually fun for people? And then, what we initially thought might be fun for people is fun for us, but not fun for the person we're actually trying to target. And I think that was one of the big aha moments that our team had. Is, on paper, I was putting this down, I say I'm building something for Grady, I think, oh man, this is going to be great, I got this little challenge here, we're going to dip our feet in the water, and then the client, or the case, actually goes through the session, and like, I didn't enjoy it at all. That wasn't fun for me. It's like, oh crap, like, I have to think that I'm not building this as fun for me, I'm building this as fun for you. And so these are things that we need to think about when implementing this plan and rolling it out and creating resources. That is, how do we engage the people we're trying to engage? So even if you guys thought about, so from a marketing standpoint or a visual standpoint, like what would attract you? Or what does your department use in terms of, if you are doing some type of exercise fitness thing, like how is that marketed? And do you find it engaging? Because ultimately we're trying to create a positive, like, emotional attachment to this initiative we're putting together. And if we don't create that positive association, then it's not going to work. And I think that anybody who's from Canada may have seen this before. There's an organization called Participation up in Canada. And I think they put together a brilliant marketing strategy just to highlight the value of exercise. And so their tagline is, everything gets better when you get active. And they have a series of 50 or so little pictures like this for highlighting how everything that we do can actually be improved by just being physically active. And so it's poop better, sex better, friend better, coach better, happy better, sleep better, age better, parent better. And so everybody can find something in this that is relevant to them. And it's kind of fun, it's engaging, they have little images. But it's just something like this has been phenomenal to get more people interested in just what this physical activity thing can be. And so we can learn a lot from how they branded the idea of exercise or physical activity. And just by this, everything gets better, that whole campaign, it's got a lot of traction because people find themselves somewhere in all of these different little things that they're commenting on. As I mentioned, it really is fun. So if you're thinking about implementation and rollout, it really is finding things that are driving the motives behind the members. And so the survey tools that Grady was mentioning that we can make available to you guys, it really is looking at what motivates people to be active. And that could be as something like guilt motivates me to be active. I don't like feeling overweight. I don't like when my family members or my colleagues comment on the fact that I'm inactive. I feel guilty about it, and therefore I get active. That could be a motivator. Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of the time it's scared. You go to
Sure.
the doctor, and your blood pressure is like 200 over whatever.
Yep, completely agree. And so people sometimes, it's out of fear. So I'm motivated by fear. And so initially, if we're trying to get people engaged or active, it's not to say how motivated are you, it's what motivates you. And over time, we might want to shift you a little bit from activity out of fear to activity because I get pleasure in it. But initially, we can understand that people are motivated by fear or feeling guilty or some type of external reward or incentive. That's important for us to know because then it just means that the strategies we're putting together are going to address these things. And then it's kind of the difference between being extrinsically motivated and being intrinsically motivated. Both are great, so I wouldn't want you guys to walk away thinking that extrinsic factors are not good. We're all motivated by extrinsic things. But it's understanding what are those extrinsic things, and can we have a little bit of the intrinsic piece that is going to help keep you sustained in the long term. But understanding why people are motivated and not just how much they're motivated is going to be very valuable for us. The other thing, I think little goals and challenges can incentivize this for people. And so it could be a team thing, it could be a station thing, it could be a departmental thing. But feeling part of something bigger than myself is often very attractive to people as well. I think this is why, a lot of the group exercise, group fitness has become so popular, because it isn't just about me anymore. I'm now part of something that's bigger than me. And so I think that as we roll this out, as we're looking at various implementation strategies, having some very unique goals or challenges that can be achieved by a team, or for certain people by an individual, is going to help engage in the long term. So those are just some thoughts about implementation, and this is maybe just to give you guys some highlights about what the IFF is doing a little bit differently to rebrand their program. So this is 2017 at our the Big Redmond conference, the Big Health and Safety conference. This was in Vancouver, I believe. So in Vancouver. So we were running morning exercise sessions. And so I think, some people think in morning exercise sessions, they're going to get me up, they're going to have me do squats and lunges and all these things. And we wanted everybody that showed up to maybe think differently about what this can look like. And so we started the morning by doing some games. And so this one was a circle tag. We played tic-tac-toe, with everybody. But this was a way, we had a bunch of people show up, not everybody knows everybody. This is a way to feel connected to the group that you're in, and everybody's having fun. And it's really hard to be amazing at tag. So we're kind of breaking down some of those barriers about, I'm maybe more fit, therefore I'm better at squats, I'm going to be better at this thing than you, or I'm worse at this thing than somebody else, and get rid of it all. And so initially, we're just going to have fun, get people enjoying the atmosphere that we're in. They're all active, they're sweating. This is the sensation and the feeling we want them to walk away with. And so we're rethinking what this whole thing looks like. And the resources and the tips and the strategies that we're providing at the IFF that you guys can be successful, this was one of those things. So everybody absolutely loved it. This is something else that I mentioned in the beginning. We're really tackling this as a behavior problem. This is not our resource, but something that we're leaning on. So this is called the behavior change wheel. So I'm not sure if anybody's heard of or seen this before. But essentially, what it highlights, so the different layers here. So in the middle, this is highlighting the sources of your behavior, so why you do what you do. And if we're putting together a strategy to try and change your behavior, we need to know where's that behavior coming from. And so they're splitting it up into your capabilities, the opportunities that exist, and then your motivation around that behavior. And unless we understand the comprehensive nature of why you're doing what you're doing, then we're probably not going to be successful in actually changing your behavior. The middle layer here, this red one, is the types of interventions that we need to be thinking about if trying to change your behavior. And so this can be everything from education to persuasion to training, modeling. So we can't take a one-size-fits-all approach. So just providing people with education is not going to change behavior. There's a lot of people that have tried, and there's zero evidence to say that education alone works. So we have to have a comprehensive approach to this. But just that alone is also not enough. We have to look at policy changes that might be needed to support the initiative, to support the change in behavior. And so as we start building out and kind of repackaging the IFF's fitness program, these are the types of resources that we want to support you guys with. Okay, so it's not just here's your annual assessment anymore. It's not just here's a course that you can go give to your PFTs or your members. Let's think about how we actually change behavior, how we get more people more active more often, and let's support you with those resources. So this is something that's coming for you guys down the road. This is also just an example of, from an education perspective, how we want to be a little bit broader. We want to view, it's not just fitness and fitness alone, but without thoughts about nutrition and behavioral health and all these other things, it's not necessarily going to work either. And so we want to be providing education and resources that are a little bit more comprehensive in our approach, both for a group of ambassadors or advocates. If you guys have PFTs, there will be a whole curriculum laid out. It's almost like a diploma or a degree, so there is a clear path for individuals that you guys are targeting within your department as those advocates. But there's also going to be education for the specific members. We don't have to go through a PFT for everything. As Luke mentioned in his department, it's providing people with access to things on a regular basis. We're trying to empower members so they can actually take control of their own lives as well. So this is also something that's coming. And then, you know, it really is looking at ways to, or we are really looking at ways to incentivize or engage in the long term. And so, you know, this is, you know, social media and everything that comes with that. It will be a big part of what the IFF is doing so that we can engage or interact with your departments and your members on a regular basis. Because if it's not there in your face, it's really easy to lose kind of sight of it, lose interest. And so we want to be a presence that is there to support you guys, just, you know, ongoing. And so, you know, this is something that's coming from us as well. Just some examples, you know, things that we have been doing. So this term movement hygiene is something that we've been you know, pushing for the past few years now. And so, you know, we practice oral hygiene, you know, by brushing our teeth. We think about sleep hygiene, you know, developing a sleep routine. From a movement standpoint, I think there are also things that we should be doing or could be doing. And so on a daily basis, you know, so just for me, I've committed to, you know, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, 3 to 5 minutes at least every day. And if, you know, if we have that attitude of just kind of, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It could be, you know, going for a walk for 3 minutes. It could be, you know, climbing stairs for 3 minutes. It could be absolutely anything. But just commit to 3 minutes a day. And that just association is going to create a habit that I'm going to do something regardless of where I am. And so just imagine, you know, you commit to, so I have a colleague at work, you know, obese, never really active, really kind of scared of activity, got them on the same page. And now what it's done is create a, one, positive association with it because it doesn't have to be big and daunting, and I don't have to sweat, I don't have to work really hard. But it's also easy to check the box on a daily basis. And so a month in, I can look back and say, you know what, I was active for 30 days in a row. And it's, yes, it might have been 3 minutes on, you know, 5 days of the week, but you were active. That's what we're trying to get to. You know, create these different associations with activity. So, for the past 3 years, every single week, what we've been doing is posting a little thing on Instagram and YouTube to highlight, it doesn't matter where you are or what you have, do something. And so this is myself, one of our other colleagues, who's sitting in the middle here, we're just at the airport, waiting for our plane. It's like, we got some time. For me, it's kind of interesting that we're okay with people sleeping on the floor at the airport, but we're not okay with people exercising. And so I want to change that. So if we change where it's okay to be active, you know, just public perception of what that looks like, that's going to go a long way. And so you're getting us more comfortable to be active in certain spaces. This is IFF headquarters. So as Grady was mentioning, so we don't need to put on the shorts. We're going to take 5 minutes, you know, in between a couple of meetings. This is Rip Swan. He's the director of health and safety. And we got Grady over here, a couple of the staff. 5 minutes. We're going to do a little circuit. Everybody goes back to doing what they're doing. You know, create this connectedness, you know, a bit of relationship between everybody. We're having some fun. And then, like I said, every time I'm traveling, do something. And you can get really creative with what you have, where you are. And so what we're trying to do is you know, in what we're, you know, posting online here, is to just show people that there are options. It doesn't have to look a specific way. You know, hanging off your fridge. Like, who's thought about hanging off the fridge before? It's really tough.
You have to put a disclaimer on that one. So
Right. But the point is, like, we can be active everywhere. And so it is really just looking at this differently. And so we want to provide, you know, you guys with options that are actually relevant to the members. And so it's, you know, really getting creative with what this can look like. And again, all this stuff that we're posting is 5 minutes. And so you get an interest, you know, to work hard, you can work hard in 5 minutes. If you want to, you know, work on some mobility because mobility is important, there are little things you can do in 3 to 5 minutes. In your underwear, at your home, you know, nobody else is watching. But just do something 3 minutes a day. That's, you know, what we're kind of asking for people, just to think differently about where this can start. And again, just kind of going back to this, yeah, this is me in my office, you know, again, you know, highlighting that I was just doing push-ups and squats back and forth, but, you know, really hard. But, you know, I have limited time. You know, this is a great way to fit something in. So going back, just kind of summarizing, let's collectively redefine what exercise is. You know, we know that there are a ton of benefits that we can all achieve from it, but right now, I don't think that we're all getting those benefits for one reason or another, but a large part of it is because of the associations we have created with that word. And so let's redefine what the word means and what it looks like, so we can have more people actually get the benefits that we know exist. Really think, if you guys are rolling this out in your department, really think about implementation. Okay, what does this look like in implementation from a behavioral perspective? So how do I actually put in a plan here that is going to change people's behavior in the long term? Like, don't look for it's not just a one-piece solution, so it's not just including fitness assessments, it's not just getting PFTs. We have to be much more comprehensive with the rollout of this strategy. And think long term. Okay? It's not 6 months. Think a couple years down the road. So what can I do to make sure this is now embedded within the culture of the department? So if there is a change in leadership at the top, this all doesn't go away. And there are a lot of things we can do. So what we're trying to do at the IFF is say, okay, departments don't have money. Doesn't mean you can't do anything. It just means you need to take steps 1, 2, and 3 over here, rather than 3, 4, and 5 over here. If you have money, great. You can do these steps first. But it's where you are right now, what steps can be taken to get closer and closer to more people more active more often. And then get ready for more resources coming from the IFF over the next year and a half or so. We're going to be rolling out a ton of stuff to support you guys in what you're doing. Okay, so you can reach out to Grady, to myself, to Luke, to Carrie. We're just the IFF staff for a lot of this stuff that's coming down the road. It could be anything from surveys to resources to exercise programs to courses to workshops that are being run, but it really is about supporting you guys in what you're doing. I think that's okay. Questions, comments? Thank you.